Why is Venezuela, the country with the world's largest proven crude oil reserves, suffering through a fuel shortage? Drivers queue for hours, sometimes overnight, just for a chance to fill their tanks. But the gasoline they finally procure isn't just scarce, it's potentially lethal, capable of turning their vehicles into ticking time bombs. Welcome to Venezuela, where cars explode and gasoline is the fuel of misery. Venezuela struck black gold in the 1920s. Over time, it went from one of the poorest countries in the region to the richest in South America. With the economy driven by oil money, Venezuela prospered. Until crude oil prices dropped. The switch from capitalism to socialism in the late 90s further plunged the country into economic turmoil. Venezuela has the capacity to serve its own fuel needs, but with the country's refineries in poor condition, petroleum imports from Iran are mitigating the shortages. But the questionable quality of the fuel means the life of the average Venezuelan isn't easy. The truth is that I don't know where I'm going to get the money because I can't earn enough to keep a car and have food in my fridge.
Once we queued for fuel for 10 hours. We arrived at 3 a.m. and left at 4 p.m. It's not easy.
Then, in 2018 or 2019, 4 refineries were totally paralyzed.
Nelliana Carrasco is on a mission to find out why her car keeps failing. She's one of the many victims of the poor quality fuel the country contends with. Today, she's taking her car to a garage for a checkup. Having a car in Venezuela is really hard and expensive. Because the car sometimes fails to start, several components on the car are damaged, like the fuel pump, for example. I'm praying that if one of those components has an issue, the battery or the fuel pump, it won't be completely damaged. And that the car doesn't catch on fire. She's hoping her trusted mechanic, Raul, will help diagnose the issues with the car. It lacks power going uphill, and I think one piston isn't working. Only 3 out of 4 are working. Raul gets to work. The cylinders and the spark plugs, though a little worn, pass his inspection. He then checks over the rest of the engine, but finds that it's in decent shape. Still, Nelliana knows something is wrong with her car. The car starts making noises as if it wants to turn off.
We have to check the fuel system to see how the filters are, because the problem doesn't seem to be here.
How much will the fuel pump cost?
The cost of the fuel pump is $20, plus $40 labor.
So you're telling me that it's a minimum of $70?
Yes, at least $70.
What if it's the complete pump package?
If it's the complete pump package, it costs $120. It comes with the whole system, the pump and the float.
The news is disheartening. Nelliana's resources are stretched thin, and spending $120 on replacing the entire fuel system is something she just can't afford. The truth is that I don't know where I'm going to get the money because I can't earn enough to keep a car and have food in my fridge. In 2020, the Venezuelan government announced imports of oil from Iran, with the price capped at 50 cents per litre. But as time went by, the prices rose while the quality dropped. Gilberto Morillo, a former finance manager at the state-owned oil and gas company PDVSA, has his theories about what happened.
When the Great Crisis came, that was when the Iranian ships arrived. We were without gasoline in the whole country, and we're expecting a lot from the ships. The gasoline was distributed for a few days, but there was always doubt about the quality. Octane is one factor. Octane is what ensures the fuel doesn't explode under pressure, but only when the spark plug sparks. But if the octane is low, when it is under pressure inside the engine, that causes it to detonate, to explode.
But even for those whose cars are currently running fine, procuring fuel is time-consuming. Dami is a chauffeur who hopes that a midnight quest will lead him to a full tank of gas.
It's 10 minutes to 3 a.m. I'm heading to the service station to get gas. Well, let's hope I get to leave early and don't have to wait so many hours there for fuel.
He's heading to a gas station where residents can get subsidized fuel on certain days, determined by their license plate number. Despite the cars queuing ahead of him, Dami has seen worse, and he's optimistic.
Today it's short. Today I came at 3 a.m., and the line is really not very long. I should be out of here at about 7 a.m. Let's say it takes 4 or 5 hours, or sometimes 6 or 7. One time it took like 10 hours. We arrived at 3 a.m. and left at 4 p.m. I mean, it's not easy. It's all about luck.
Dami could have bought fuel from a station without a long queue, but fuel there would be sold at international market prices, in US dollars, something not all Venezuelans can afford. For Dami, the hours of inching closer to his goal are the only way to ensure his car has a full tank of gas.
Well, it's going to be 6 a.m. We're not far away. About 10 or 12 cars. Then I can go back home and rest a little in the early morning to get my energy back.
Dami finally reaches the pump. It's too dangerous to film for long. The stations are run by the army or paramilitary groups who often demand bribes just to fill up. But for this weary Venezuelan, it's mission accomplished.
Well, we're coming out of the gas station. We managed to fill up the tank. It's 6:30 in the morning. Thank God.
The severe fuel shortage and the poor quality of fuel are a far cry from when the country's oil industry was thriving.
Well, let's first remember that around 1998 or 99, Petróleos de Venezuela was ranked as the second best oil company in the world.
But between 2002 and 2003, clashes between the Chavez-led government and PDVSA led to oil production dropping. It was the beginning of the end.
Many plants were failing, so you didn't have 40 plants operating, you had 30 or 20. Then in 2018 or 2019, the 4 refineries were totally paralyzed, and there were no fully functional refineries at all.
It's all resulted in a situation of daily struggle for people like Neliana. Today, she's off to have her fuel pump examined by an expert. Freddie Moreno has worked with fuel pumps for over 10 years. In the past 5, he's seen more and more problems caused by low-quality gasoline.
The fuel nozzles overheat. It moves up to the nozzles on top, overheats, and the car ignites when the oxygen enters. The car doesn't explode, but it will catch on fire.
Freddie inspects the fuel pump on Neliana's car, and the results are just as she feared.
Okay, we're doing the check. But look here, you have a burnt connector. It's had its time and there's nothing more that can be done. New pump, new fuel pump module. You have to buy a new one.
Neliana has to try and replace the entire unit or give up on her car entirely. But as luck will have it, it's the car that gives up on her. The car failed again. It didn't want to start. The mechanic told me it's the complete fuel pump because of the gasoline. I have to wait for it to cool down to see if I can get home and see if it can be fixed. I'm going to sell the car. I can't go on in this situation where every 5 minutes I break down because of the gasoline. That's what it's like to have a car in Venezuela with this worthless gasoline. Owning a car in Venezuela is both a necessity and a burden. While Dami hopes that his tank of gas will last until he's allowed to refuel the following week, Neliana is confronted with a tough decision. Can she really afford to run a car that constantly needs repairs because of substandard fuel? Like many Venezuelans, they suffer the consequences of poor supply and low-quality fuel, seemingly with no end in sight. Have you ever faced a fuel shortage in your part of the world? Let us know in the comments.